I'm rolling with FD.
I'm going to drop a couple bombs on the FD channel right now.
Who you rolling?
I am rolling with FD.
I'm rolling with FD.
Let's do it. Let's go.
I'm rolling with FD, baby.
We are rolling with FD.
I'm rolling with FD.
Oh, you know we rolling with FD, baby.
We got alphas and bros in the house.
That's right.
Peace out, my brother.
Woo!
I'm rolling with the F to D.
Learn something new every day when you're rolling with FD.
Yeah, we are rolling with FD, baby.
I roll with one person, and that's FD.
I'm rolling with FD, baby.
You gotta love it, man.
This is a family thing.
That's good. That's good, man.
Hey, Renee, who you rolling with?
Rolling with FD.
Rolling with FD.
You don't have to ask. I'm rolling with FD.
My man. But see, Bless, who you rolling with?
I'm rolling with FD.
I'm rolling with FD.
That's how you just rolling, right? That's the whole thing, right? You roll with it.
You gotta let me know who you rolling with.
We're rolling with FD. You heard it first.
I'm rolling with FD.
I am rolling with FD.
I'm not just a pretty face, Ziggy. JD, we should both do it.
No, I'm doing that.
What questions do you have for me? Right, Manny and Jeremy, who you rolling with?
We're rolling with FD. We don't want to get our asses kicked.
You gotta let the people know who you rolling with, man.
Well, obviously I'm rolling with FD.
What is up, everybody? Tuesday, November 7th, a little after 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I have a special guest here today that I've wanted to talk to for quite a while. He needs no introduction. I'm going to try to give him one. We got Ty, a.k.a. T-Pott, from Sports Card Investor. How you doing, sir?
Hello, sir. I'm doing great. How are you?
All right, it's great to have you here.
I came in at the last minute here. My wife was saying, I got to get ready for bed. So I was like,
I know how it is. I actually just got home like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah. I said, you got to get out. I'm going live. So she went scrambling. So I'm happy to be here. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Appreciate your time. Appreciate it. Let's kick this off. Tell us about your background.
Sure.
And how you started your career with Sports Card Investor.
Yeah, I'll give you the condensed version. So I was a collector as a child and mostly basketball cards back in the 90s. Kind of 95 to 98, 99 was like my heyday. And dabbled a little bit again after college in 2008. And then I started my career in banking and finance and worked in credit, risk analysis, got into special projects, innovation type stuff, and eventually got into data management. And then I started working with Jeff on the side, kind of helping build the Market Movers database and doing some bug testing and user testing, and just kind of got connected to him. And then fortunately, I got laid off from my last company after 9 years there because of the COVID impact, and the company was just getting crushed. And the project I was on got put onto an indefinite halt. Mm-hmm. So I got let go, and so did like 600 other people. And Jeff said, hey, how about a job? And I jumped on the SCI wagon, and things have just gone from there. I was one of the first few employees with the company. Technically the first one, if you can count the part-time work I was doing. And I've been here a little over 3 years now, full-time, and do content, obviously oversee all of our product development efforts on the digital product side. And now hopefully be helping a little bit, at least with the new Cards HQ opening too in Atlanta. So lots of stuff, lots of really cool stuff.
One question I've always wanted to ask you, I also want to talk about Cards HQ. But one question I always want to ask you, I respect you a lot for your data, just understanding and how you break it down. I've had jobs before dealing with data. What was it like the first time someone came to you and said, Ty, let's do some content? Because I know a lot of people who are naturally gifted, I want to ask this question, who may be naturally gifted in exercising data, I'll say. If someone says, I want you to also do content, they may say, I don't know if I want to do that.
Yeah.
How did you feel when you first heard about it?
Yeah. So, what's funny is my personality type, I'm a big personality assessment guy. Mm-hmm. My personality type is actually one that you would not expect to enjoy data, spreadsheets, numbers, anything like that. I guess it's kind of an aptitude that I developed through my career, which was not always my favorite thing to do. And I did theater and things like that in school growing up. I used to be pretty zany. I've kind of tempered that down and tried to conduct myself a little more professionally in my older age.
Okay.
But my first exposure to content at SCI was just doing our member live streams that we do every month. And Jeff said, hey, you did a great job. How about jumping on a video with me sometime? We did a video. And then it was like, how about just starting to do a weekly piece for market movers? And so I was doing that on my home office in Michigan initially. And then I moved down to Atlanta and started doing more on the SCI channel as well. I really enjoy it. It's one of the things I think is a lot of fun about
You do a great job, man. You do a great job. What part of Michigan were you in?
Grand Rapids area, Southwest.
Okay. I used to live right outside of Detroit in a suburb called Farmington Hills.
I know Farmington Hills. Yep. One of the schools I went to used to play them a lot in football in the state championships.
Okay. Grand Rapids. All right. The home of Floyd Mayweather.
That's right. That's right. In fact, I used to work at Red Lobster, and when Floyd would come back home, he would book the entire restaurant late at night, and a bunch of us would stay on and work. And I was a server there, so we would wait on Floyd and his crew.
Very cool. I know when I was in Michigan, one time he had a fight, and you can view fights at a movie theater. And I went to a movie theater at the time. I did not know where Floyd Mayweather was from. I'm just like, okay, there's a fight. I'm gonna go watch it. And the entire place was book packed, and people were they were still selling tickets. People were standing around watching the fight. And then I realized I learned that night that Floyd's from Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
So tell us all a little bit more about Cards HQ. What's coming? Because I'm pretty sure everybody that's here has seen the video about what is coming. But peel the curtain back a little bit and let us know.
Yeah, I mean, Jeff started kicking around, opening a physical card shop. He met a couple of guys, Ryan and Carter, who are local to Atlanta, who have been working as dealers at shows, setting up all over the place, and are very plugged in locally in Atlanta. And he started talking to them, and they were going to open their own shop, small shop, about 1,000, 1,500 square feet, something like that. And Jeff kind of said, hey, wait a minute, what about us, partnering and doing something a little bigger? And by a little bigger, I mean a lot bigger. It's about 14,000 square feet, the lease that they signed. It's really close to the Battery and Truist Park, which is where the Braves play, right off 75. Great location. It's near one of the biggest AMCs in Atlanta. Like, it's just a really great spot, easy to get to, tons of parking. It used to be a Pier 1 Imports. And so it's just really big. We're going to have our studios inside the main show floor, glass walls. So you want to talk about like nerve wracking. I'm going to be doing content now with like people in the shop watching me do it. That's next level. Yeah. So that'll be fun though. And then we're moving our offices there. There's going to be like a breaker arena where people can, if you buy a box, you can go and sit down at this kind of cool breaker table, and people can sit in the bleachers and watch, and they'll have like a screen behind it. You can record it. You can do box battles. There's going to be a lot of fun stuff for sealed product, and just to make it entertaining. Big lounge area with TVs all around the wall playing the games. It's really meant to be a big hangout spot. And then there's going to be a lot of live selling, 24/7 live selling. So the big name of the game, and what I've talked to Jeff about, is just like inventory procurement. Like how do you get enough inventory to keep things moving? And they're very optimistic about it. I think it's going to be an awesome opportunity. One thing that I'm really excited about too is that Ryan and Carter are really intent on, I would say, buying at a reasonable rate, and they've been really successful in shows so far over the last few months. They pay fair, as a dealer would, more than reasonable, and they really want to make sure that the way that the cards are priced in the shop too is very reasonable and not like trying to price gouge people. So I think it's going to be really exciting, and I'm really excited about it personally because it's going to cut my commute time in half or more. So I'm going to be much closer to home now too. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm excited for it. I know the opening date is in January, right around Culture Collision, correct?
That's right. Yeah. We're targeting the last week of January for the opening. If anything, a soft opening, but grand opening might be something a little spicier a few weeks later with some festivities as well. So
I think it's going to be great. Can't wait to see it. We got the Coos guy, coming straight out of the Central Valley of California.
Yeah,
Swag Money
yeah,
Records with DJ T-Pott on the turntables. Okay. We got Johnny Stan rolling. What's up, fam? Matt here. How's it going, folks? Going well. We got T-Pott in the house. So let's jump into, I know you're a big Drummond fan.
Yeah.
Let's walk people through the background of that. How did you become a fan?
Yeah, well, first off, he broke the 10,000 rebound mark last night, which was really cool. And why am I a Drummond fan? Because I got back into cards in 2019, and I was a big player PC guy in the 90s. Collected Penny, Gary Payton, Sharif Abdur-Rahim, among other guys.
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted to have a player PC, and I thought, I really want to collect a Pistons player, but the Pistons, as you, I'm sure, know, weren't particularly good in the 2010s.
True.
And they were kind of middling at best and getting a lot of later draft picks, and it was just not a good situation. But Drummond was one of the few guys who was good, was an all-star, and who obviously his play style has kind of lost favor in the NBA, but it's still something that I am find very endearing. He's just a hustler. He gobbles up the boards. He's really gets a lot of steals for a big man. And he was exciting for me to watch on the Pistons. He was one of the, consistent pieces, the best player for a decade. So when I started looking at cards, I kind of got the bug. I went on ComC and saw that I could buy almost all of his 2018 Optic Rainbow, like outside of the one of ones, for like $45 total. Like all of them, the golds, everything. So that's kind of, I got in there and I started picking up one of ones, and it just snowballed. And I've lost count. I need to go back and count, honestly. I think I'm somewhere around 75 to 80 one of ones now. I have several rainbows completed, including the 2018 and 2019 Prism rainbows. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
That's a great collection.
Yeah. It's really cool to, obviously that's a collection, that's a collector item. And it's not like I do that for the long term. Like, man, this guy's going to blow up and I'm going to be rich someday with Drummond cards. Probably the opposite, honestly. But it's really fun. And it's really cool to be able to say, I'm pretty confident that I have the best PC in the world of this player, so that's kind of a unique thing.
Yeah. And also for everybody out there, he put a crazy move on Chet. 2 weeks ago, week and a half ago?
He almost injured Chet again.
Man, he almost tore his knees and his ankle at the same time.
Yeah.
That was a crazy move. That's Drummond.
Yeah, that's right.
When he got to Detroit, though, it was interesting to me. Like when Blake Griffin came over, Drummond was the man. I mean, he was doing his thing. And when Blake came in, I wondered back then, how's that going to mesh? But Drummond has always been a consistent player that comes out and gives you his all while he's on the court. I've watched him with the Bulls. I've watched him with different teams. I like his playing style as well. It reminds me of kind of what probably you and I grew up watching.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, for
I
sure.
respect it, man. I wanted you to tell that story, though, because it's kind of cool to me. So let's jump into a modern player that we've both talked about. Let's talk about Austin Reeves.
Ooh, yeah.
Tell people what you think of Austin Reeves.
So yeah, this was our first message exchange, and I've been following your content and seeing things, but I saw you posted a few months ago. It's funny, Austin Reeves didn't get any contract offers, and maybe it's because LeBron's kind of lifting him up, and I was like, hey, whoa, let's pump the brakes. So look, I like Austin Reeves. Austin Tyler Reeves, as his name is, also known as Hillbilly Kobe. And, he's a shooting guard. He was undrafted. He played for Wichita State and then was with Oklahoma at the end of college. Solid senior year. He averaged like 18 points, 5 assists, 6 rebounds. And then he went undrafted. Funny story is he actually was he was called by the Pistons during the draft. They were going to take him at number 42. But they were going to sign him to a 2-way contract, which for those who don't know what that means, it could mean it's not guaranteed roster spots. Like could be G League, could be part-time practicing.
Yeah.
And he said, I think I'm good enough to play to get a roster spot. So he said, please don't draft me. Went undrafted, got connected with the Lakers, made their roster. His rookie year, he didn't do a lot. He averaged about 7 points a game, but he did play like 23 minutes a game over 61 games. That last game of his first season, his rookie year, though, and a lot of people maybe don't know this, it's pretty crazy stat line. 42 minutes, 31 points, 10 assists, 16 rebounds, 2 blocks, and a steal, or 2 steals and a block. And he had just 3 turnovers. So he kind of showed this like flash right at the end of the year. And to me, the thing I like about him is he's kind of the quintessential glue guy. Last year, he shot 40% from 3. He had a 69% true shooting percentage, 538 stats, just loved him on their advanced metrics. And so what it started reminding me of was the Alex Caruso cult following that developed like, a few years prior to that with the Lakers, right? And so I said, Reeves looks like he's the next guy in the lineage with the Lakers. And I like watching him play. He hustles. He has to work hard. He had to work hard for his spot in the league, and he knows he's going to have to keep working hard. And he doesn't have the athleticism to fall back on like a lot of these other guys. So I've always been a big fan of glue guys. You could go down the list, but I think about guys like Jay Crowder. Late career Iguodala, PJ Tucker, Shane Battier, Haslam, Nicholas Batum.
Those are the guys that help you win championships.
That's what I loved about Austin Reeves. And even though I didn't think the Lakers were, and still don't, were a title contender this year, they went pretty deep last year until they ran into the eventual champions. In the Western Conference Finals. And I think Reeves is a big part of that. And he showed up big time in the playoffs. I think it helps, obviously, that because people like LeBron and the Lakers are a big team, he's kind of put into the spotlight. So I wouldn't say a player like Austin Reeves is has any value long-term in the card hobby. But for, coming into the season, I kind of thought, let's watch and see what happens because his prices had come down some. All it takes is for a little group of people to be excited about him. And then you can sort of see a little bit of temporary lighter fluid put on his card prices. But he's off to a bit of a slow start this season. Last 3 games have been pretty good.
What I like about him is the story overall.
Yeah.
It's a story of, and I'm serious about this. It's a story of a person believing in themselves. And putting it all on the line for their hopes and their dreams and what they think they're assessing their own abilities. And they're trying to get something done. Most people won't even do what Austin Reeves has done as far as believing in himself. And it's almost like a movie that could be made about him because he's very special in that way. On the court, I see him as a contributor. A lot of the names that you mentioned already, he does remind me of. And I don't know if his real, I guess you could say, sauce is in the 82 game season or is it in the playoffs? Because I think he's the kind of player that can lift his game than what you're going to see night in and night out, because he has a higher IQ than me on the court. So those are the things that I like about Austin Reeves. I do believe because he's with the Lakers, he'll get more limelight, get talked about more than if he was in Atlanta or with the Hawks or with the Washington Wizards. I always want to say Bullets. The Washington Wizards. So a team like that, Austin Reeves might be another guy running around. But when you are with a guy like Bron, you get that. Even Kevin Love talked about it. You get some kind of notoriety about things that you may not even be used to because you're running with a person that is a legend in basketball. So.
Yeah, I think we saw that last year that, as the season progressed, he started getting like visible support from LeBron. Like you could tell LeBron trusted him. LeBron was passing in at the end of games and vice versa. And, even last night, AD goes down and Reeves steps up and has a big game. So, he's like you said, he's the type of guy that is really committed to playing his role on the team. He doesn't have like any, kind of superstar narcissism going on. He's just like, I want to play hard. And then when the team needs it, I'll give it more and step up. So,
and if you're LeBron, you got to love that you can give the ball to a guy. He's going to do right after he gets the ball. He's not going to turn it over. He's going to try to either assist someone else to score or he's going to score it himself. And I think that's why he loves playing with the guy. I cannot blame him. We got some questions here for you. Who's getting Rookie of the Year? Right now, it's between Chet and Wemby.
It is. And, going into this, I made a video a few weeks ago on the Market Movers channel, and I forgot that Chet was like eligible because he was out all year last year. So, right now it looks like it's Wemby. right now it looks like it's Wemby. I will say Chet, has looked pretty good. That OKC team, I'm really excited to see how they can develop. They were kind of my sleeper this year. I pegged them as maybe the my kings of this year. Like they could be like a 3 or a 4 seed. Like they're very talented. Shea is amazing, and Chet looks really good. The guy who has really shocked me so far and has been pretty much atrocious is Scoot. He's just been terrible.
I don't know. Is he playing injured? Because he hurt his shoulder in preseason, but he's not playing well. He's shooting 9% from the 3.
Yeah.
He's only averaging 8 points a game.
Yeah,
he's not shooting well from the free throw. I think the free throw line he's at 85%, but he's not shooting well from the field.
Yeah. Yeah, something's off. Because
going on.
We saw what he can do prior to coming to the NBA, and he's very athletic and very gifted. I really like what I've seen from both of the Pistons rookies, Thompson and Sasser.
Oh yeah, very nice.
Look really solid. Thompson just looks like the second coming of Tayshaun Prince or something. Like he's just blocking guys, stealing. He just does everything. So I'm excited about him as well.
And Sasser is a very he can throw assists, he can shoot the 3. Coming out of Houston, he was a lower draft pick. The young man has skills. I actually think he's going to drive Ivy more on the bench or with reduced minutes, and he's going to start taking over.
So I'm in a Pistons group chat on Instagram, and I like a Pistons cards chat, and I sent a message 2 days ago and said, more Sasser, less Hayes. And then last night, Killian Hayes had a really good game. And I said he took my message personally. He had a big game.
He even shot well from the field.
Yeah, he did, which is rare, unfortunately.
Very, very rare. It's interesting that Monty Williams has but it seems to believe more in Killian Hayes and putting him in a court and starting him with Cade and giving him more tick when most people thought that wasn't going to be the case, and driving Ivy to the bench.
Yeah, I don't know. That has been a surprise for me. Well, we'll see how the season plays out. Monty's got to figure out the right lineups and who's really gonna, develop and show up. And maybe this is his way of trying to give Killian a fair crack, because Dwayne Casey seemed like intent on only giving veterans minutes. He just did not want to develop the young guys and give them a chance to play. Sekou Doumbouya a few years ago just never even got a chance to play. I mean, he wasn't good. He really wasn't, but I was hopeful for him when they drafted him, and they never even gave him a chance, and they were awful. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. I really hope that Cade can get his turnovers under control and improve his defense. And if he can do those two things, he's going to be a really solid player.
I hope so. That organization definitely needs a strong point guard. Carvab asked that question. We already got to it. What's your thoughts on the Pistons?
Yeah.
Machado says, thanks for coming to the pod. Yeah, we love T-Pott rolling through. Celtics and Nuggets look great early. Who's your NBA championship pick?
Celtics. They were my pick before the season started. They lost their first game last night to the Wolves, who are showing some signs. They lost to the Wolves.
Anthony Edwards had 38 right last night.
Yeah, Towns had 7. I was like, oh, they must have both had good games. Nope. But I mean, Boston just looks so deep. They look so deep. They've got the best defensive talent overall for a team in the NBA. You've got a guy like an aging Al Horford, but who just is he's so crafty. It's like having him on your bench to go into a playoff run. That's amazing. They're going to be very tough. There was a lot of internal debate about the Bucks and whether or not it was smart for them to swap out basically Dame, Drew for
Dame. I
Dame.
have thoughts on that. Yeah. I just don't think Dame plays defense. He doesn't play defense.
Right. And so what I said last season, I'm a big Giannis fan. He's my favorite player in the NBA. And I said last year, everybody was like, oh, the Bucks are going to win it. And I said, I really am not optimistic this year. I was very optimistic the year they won it, and they won it. And this year I was not. Last year I was not. And the reason I wasn't was because I was worried that if they ran into another team that was really good defensively, like Miami and like Boston, that they would struggle because they didn't have enough in secondary and tertiary options beyond Giannis.
Yeah.
And so they're going to lock Giannis down, and then it's going to be trouble. And that's exactly what happened. So in my mind, it was like, you got to bring in another alpha, another player who rises to the moment, another clutch player, somebody else. And when they got Dame, it's like, that's the best player available in that scenario. I love Drew Holiday. He's one of my favorite players from the last decade. And I know he loved being there. And I know Giannis loved playing with him. They were very close.
Very, very close. Yeah.
But I thought I was like, this makes a lot of sense to me, because now you have a guy like Lillard who can score on his own against, the Celtics if they face them, against Miami if they face them. And I think it's going to take a little bit of time, but I think they're going to figure it out. I worry about the depth. I don't know if the Bucks have enough.
And I worry, let's say we get into another situation like last year where Giannis is healthy, Dame is healthy, and let's say Middleton's hurt.
Yeah.
That's really going to stress those two. It's going to put a lot of stress on Giannis to really hold that down.
Yep. Then you're basically saying Brook Lopez better show up and be extra good. Bobby Portis better be extra good.
That's right.
Pat Connaughton better figure out how to shoot threes again. Mm-hmm. My guy, Pat Connaughton, who I love. But I don't know. We'll see.
Peeps says even FD and T-Pott. Good to have you here, Peeps. Question for T-Pott. Will Trey Young be traded this season? This is a hot question, because I thought at the beginning of the season they would set this team up for him to leave. Hoping Lakers make some moves. What do you think about Trey Young?
Well, I think first of all, it's funny to me. Every year, Instagram is full of little clickbait posts about how breaking news, the Lakers have said they're interested in potentially acquiring, and then literally insert any superstar's name. And I'm like, yeah, of course they are. How are they going to do that? Like, it's always like the Lakers are going to get Dame, the Lakers are going to get Jimmy Butler. So I always laugh at that. But there have been rumors of trade to the Lakers, like legitimate rumors that might be a spot that would make sense for his skill set. And I like Trey a lot. I really like watching him. If I were Trey's coach, if I were Trey's friend, I would tell Trey, stop pulling up from 40 feet. There's no 4-point line in the NBA. You don't get bonus points for shooting, 32% from out there. And stick to what you're really good at, which is basically playing like Tony Parker. Get to the paint, floaters, dishing. He is a gifted passer. He's incredibly quick, like borderline unstoppable with the ball in his hand in terms of speed and quickness. He should stick to that. And, he's a great finisher at the basket. And,
but T-Pott, if he does all that, he can't be compared to Steph Curry. So you got to let it fly so people know what's going on out here.
That's true.
And then you can shimmy in the middle of the court and do all that. But if you're driving and taking contact, it's not as sweet.
He's been pretty bad this year so far, unfortunately.
I think what you're saying is spot on, because I even said something the other day about Julius Randle, who shoots horribly from the field. And I don't think it has anything to do with his talent. I think it has to do with his shot selection and who he wants to be on the court compared to who he actually is from a talent perspective. Yeah. And I think there are a lot of guys in the league that struggle with that. They see someone else doing something. I even thought Jordan Poole struggled with this. You see this guy in my same locker room doing this, I'm going to pull a list too. I'm going to get out here and take over. And I got the green light when no one else gave it to me. And I'm just going to start shooting. But it doesn't work like that.
Yeah. Hero mentioned there's an echo. I've heard that occasionally too. I'm not sure. I know I'm hooked up to my quality mic, so I don't know.
I hope it's not on my end.
I'm not sure what to do. I don't know. Maybe if you mute when I'm talking, I don't know. I don't normally have any issues. I don't think you do either. That's weird.
Hero, let us know how it is going forward.
Yeah, it's like coming in and out, and I don't know why.
Machado says, my guy, Drew Holiday, the most underrated player in the league. Celtics got a good one. The issue sometimes with Drew Holiday is that you go against the Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler in the playoffs, and you get obliterated. So then people start questioning your ability.
Yeah.
But most nights, his defense is spot on, and his offense is going to help you. The thing about Dame, though, his plus minus right now is in the tank.
Yeah.
He's just not doing well on both sides of the ball.
Yep.
And I even thought that when he came over, his defensive side is going to be on spotlight right now.
Yep.
You can't just hide in Portland and say, well, they're not giving me anybody. But You got to actually play some defense. So we'll see how he adjusts to that as the season goes on.
Yep.
Oh, Brendan's saying slight echo as well. Interesting.
I don't hear it right now, but I've heard it before. So
hold on one second here. I want to disconnect my mic and see if it's me. Hold on one second.
I can't hear you now at all. I'll let you figure it out. I see Big John Collector Cards question about the in-season tournament. I'll jump on that question. I love that the NBA is trying new things. I like it when leagues try new things. I like Major League Baseball this season made a lot of really nice improvements to the pitch clock and changing the stolen base rule, and it made the game more exciting. It shortened it. So that was really cool. And I like that the NBA is trying to do some creative things too. I don't know if anybody's really going to care. It's going to take some time. They've got to figure out how to sell it. So I think I'm fine with it. I don't know that it moves the needle for me on anything, but maybe over time. It's big in soccer, right? These in-season tournaments that they have, and maybe it could be slowly integrated into NBA culture, and who knows, maybe younger people could get excited about it, and then it just carries into the future.
How's my sound now?
Sounds good.
I think it might have been my mic.
Okay.
We'll check that out. What do you think of the in-season NBA tournament? Does this thing making sense to you?
Yeah. Oh, that's what I just talked about. Maybe you couldn't hear. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just kind of touched on that one because I saw one of the questions from Big John about that. So, but yeah, I just said I like that the NBA is trying things, and
yeah, you got to.
We'll see how it plays out. So
it feels like there was some speed to concept creation to implementation. I like the fact that they're giving us something that makes us want to watch basketball, because for years I didn't watch basketball until after the really starting at the All-Star break or until after. So they give you some incentive up front.
Yeah.
I just think that I thought when we got into the tournament, we were in the tournament. I didn't know it was certain days of the week at first.
Yeah.
I thought when I saw courts change, every court was going to change for a month, and then we were going to know who the winner was.
Yeah. No, it's not working like that. It's kind of trickled out throughout. I will say I hate those courts. I didn't like any of them. They were hard for me to look at. They were so saturated on the screen.
Almost like Boise State football field on a basketball.
It was. I was like, ugh, I can't even tell where the lines are. Like I actually was watching a game. I don't remember which one, and I just turned it off. I was like, I can't watch this. So that was a miss in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're taking all feedback, people. Write the NBA, send them comments. They're taking all feedback.
Messed it up.
They want to make sure this thing is right going forward. It is going to be interesting to see, like, when you look at someone's career highlights years later, will an in-season tournament MVP or trophy mean something 15 years from now? That's the interesting part to me when you start adding accolades, like the Western Conference and Eastern Conference MVP getting a certain trophy is interesting to me.
Yeah.
We talked about Victor a little bit, but what is his impact going to be, you think, on the sports car market?
I mean, yeah, he's all the rage right now, right? And I guess sky's the limit for him. Pun intended, in many ways. I did a video on Wemby a couple weeks ago, and I just said, look, when it comes to cards, I would pump the brakes on buying Wemby cards and getting caught into this. And that's all based on probabilities. That's how I look at, what I buy and sell. I look at probabilities, and I look at floor, and I look at ceiling. And what we've seen is that, with 99.999% plus of players, the initial hype fades, and then it's just really hard for them to get back to opening prices. Early products eventually lose their luster when flagship products release. So, we've seen these crazy prices on hoops and Donruss and other things when they come out, Prism Draft, and now obviously with the Bowman products. I initially personally wasn't really sold that his play style is the most exciting. He just looks kind of awkward. It's like watching a giraffe run, and now that I've seen him play, I've watched several Spurs games this year. I've kind of changed my mind. He is pretty exciting to watch. But when I originally asked that question, I pulled Instagram. 58% of the respondents said that they didn't really like watching him play. That was before the season, though, so people may have changed their mind as well. And then the other two big things for me was like, one, I'm just always so worried about this injury risk. And when I see that guy's legs out there, you mentioned the move Drummond put on Chet. It's like the same thing could happen to Wemby. And it's been really unfortunate for basketball cards, for the overall card hobby, that we saw Zion get hurt. We saw LaMelo get hurt. We saw Cade get hurt. We saw Chet get hurt. We saw Ja have problems. Like, these guys can't seem to stay healthy. And so when I see a player like Wemby, just so tall and long with so much surface area to twist a knee or something, I hope that doesn't happen. And I get especially nervous when I see him like doing these up and under scoop moves and coming down. I'm just like, just be careful, but they've got to play hard, and he's going to play hard, and he's truly one of a kind in many ways, freakish. So I'm rooting for him. I think the league needs him. And I actually just wrote a piece. Now I'm thinking about it. I just wrote a piece in Basketball Card Fanatic magazine. Shout out to Adam Gray, Real 27 guy, the BCF crew. I just wrote an article about the evolution of the big man over time, kind of how that might affect card prices, because now we see year over year the top 3 MVP votes. Jokic, Giannis, Embiid. Like it's the big man. It's the era of the big man right now. And we saw that start to happen with Anthony Davis and Karl Anthony Towns and Porzingis and some of these other guys who have been good, great at times, even won championships. But like this next crop that I just mentioned has been, truly all-time great, generationally great. And it's exciting to see what Wemby and even Chet and some of these other guys can do.
I was looking at something on YouTube the other day about when Steph got drafted, only 3 teams in the league shot more than 30% of their shots from the 3. By the time he won his first MVP, half the teams in the league shot more than that. And some teams started creeping up to 50%. And now to last year, 2023, every team in the league shoots more than 30%. Most of them are close to 50% of their shots are from 3.
Isn't that crazy?
So, yeah. And so you got a small guy, 6'2", from a small school who kicked all that off. And then, his running mate in the backcourt, Klay Thompson, is also shooting well.
Yep.
So that just lets teams know, hey, the probability I'm getting 1 more point per shot.
Yeah.
I shoot it at a high clip. If I'm in my 40, 45, 44, I'm destroying the team.
Yeah.
So, but who has that talent? And I think teams are starting to realize that the probability of shooting a closer range shot is higher for most players that I'm going to draft or that's going to come through this team or it's going to be in the playoffs. So we probably need to go back to what we were doing in the 90s and the early 2000s.
Yeah.
When Dikembe Mutombo and Patrick Ewing and Alonzo Mourning and Shaq were running around compared to what that small guard in the Bay Area had us all doing.
Yeah. I'm really curious this year. One of the teams I'm most intrigued by, and we haven't gotten to really see what they can do yet, is the Phoenix Suns. When I found out they were getting Bradley Beal, I was like, yeah, I don't know that really actually works. Like, they've already got scoring. And, last year what we saw was that you had Kevin Durant, arguably, I'm going to say this, Jordan's the GOAT, but like just numbers wise, Durant is the best mid-range shooter of all time.
He is.
And then you got Devin Booker, who's in that top 3-4 conversation for the same thing in the league right now. And they're both mid-range. They're not, super adept 3-point shooters. They can do it, but they thrive in the mid-range. And now you add Bradley Beal, who's a little bit more inside outside, and who's, been a little banged up and had some problems with Washington. But I don't know how that team gels and comes together in terms of that. And if you can have a team that's going to be largely focused on mid-range shots efficiently, and then they end up against a team that can just, fill it up from 3, or end up against a team like Denver last year, and they just can't compete. They just can't compete with the scoring efficiency. So I'm intrigued to see what can happen with them, and I do hope that more and more teams, more players will shift back. The pendulum will shift back to balance. Steph is one of the most exciting players of all time to watch, in my opinion. But then when you have all these other guys, Trey Young or otherwise, trying to do what he does and they can't do it, it's not a good brand of basketball. It's kind of ugly to watch. So
I totally agree. So my what I call the Phoenix Suns is the Big 5-5, because I don't think any of those three people are going to play more than 55 games this season.
Yeah.
I think injury is going to be their problem. And I think we'll look back and say, how many games did all three play together? I actually believe it's like the Brooklyn Nets all over again.
Yeah.
So I don't think you're going to see too many of them on the court at the same time. I think right now, Booker and KD have played in 2 games together. Bill hasn't played yet.
Bill hasn't played
I think
yet.
also with Bill, when you have a back issue, that's not going away anytime soon. So you might see less of him this year than what we originally thought. But I think injury is the thing that separates a lot of teams. So when you bring these guys together, how can they actually play together? Like last night, the Clippers play the Knicks and they lose. And I think 3 guys one had 15, 14, 13, one had 8.
Yeah.
They got to find out how does that actually work. And then what would you think, T-Pott, if you're on the team and you're an all-star, you're a legendary player, probably a future Hall of Famer, and you got to go to the opening press conference and says, well, I am the system.
I know. That says everything you need to know.
Right.
And the problem is they now have 2 guys who think they're the system. So super weird. I don't know. All I've wanted for a few years now is to see Kawhi and Paul George just be healthy.
That's all I want to see.
And be able to play together and, run the offense through them, have their elite defense, both on the court at the same time. Such a quick fall for Kawhi after that championship run with Toronto.
He's never been the same since he stepped on that foot.
He just it was like suddenly people were literally having the conversation going, okay, yes, LeBron has been the best player, but like there was real conversation, like, but is Kawhi actually better than LeBron? He's the King Slayer. Like he's the two-way player and he can shut LeBron down and he can do XYZ. So efficient scoring, so efficient. Just hasn't been able to play.
Yeah, he has not been able to play. But you talk about a 2-time Finals MVP with killer defense.
Yeah.
And able to shoot that. His mid-range was on another level.
Yeah.
It was exciting.
That's the concern I have with like these young guys, right? Is like you can only have a few players come out of every generation. Like two players in every generation.
Yes.
Yep. Generation after, Bird and Magic, Michael and Kobe, LeBron and Steph. So it's like, who's going to last through this period? And right now, I don't know. I mean, Luka's up there, it's like you got to, Giannis and Jokic, I think for sure. I think as of right now, they would both be remembered more than Embiid, but then, who else is going to be here? And Kawhi has been a heck of a player in his career, but, how are people going to remember him, or will they?
Very true. There's a question here that I wanted to get to about LeBron signing with Topps and signing autographs. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Did you see that news today?
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty wild. It's funny. A friend texted me yesterday that he bought a Bronny auto.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, well, now you need to get a dual auto of
him
and his dad. Mm-hmm. And then I didn't know that until today. That was actually, that was actually coming. So that's a big card, I think, at least initially.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I didn't say this, but I'm not a LeBron fan. And that stems all the way back to, when he came into the league and was with the Cavs and the Pistons were really good. The only time they were really good in my memory, they were, the Bad Boys was like when I was like 4. So I saw LeBron come into the league and I saw how he got every call from the refs, and it was just like it was a more exciting, much more flashy brand of basketball than what the Pistons and the Spurs were putting out, you know. So it made sense to me from a league perspective, but it was frustrating, and I just kind of had a frustration toward him, you know, early in his career. But so I'm not a LeBron guy, but obviously what happened with Bronny, you know, going into cardiac arrest was terrible and scary. And I do hope he can play and stay healthy. And
well, they released a statement. LeBron endorsed a statement that he's going to go through some more testing to see if he's playing. Like, because I thought that's I can't see that being signed off on already. So I mean, you know, they're going to put his health first. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, you can't risk it. That's for sure. I mean, you got to be absolutely certain.
We've seen Lewis. We've seen other players in the NBA. Hank Gathers. We could name many players who have had issues.
Yeah,
and you don't want to see that again.
No.
Brenda says that's the captain number of autos for LeBron as to not oversaturate the market. Same thing for Tim Duncan. That's coming.
Yeah.
So
sign everything.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see I've said this before, the Jordan, LeBron, Steph card. It's coming at some point. And that's going to be fabulous.
That would be something else for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, we can't ever get the Kobe. So, you know, the Steph will be there. But yeah, that would be unbelievable.
Yabo, it's good to have you here, Sam. What's up?
What's up?
So, T-Pott, switching to baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see Otani going? Think he's going to the Yankees? You could think he's going to the Dodgers?
Yeah. So we just actually talked about this. We recorded yesterday. I have a new podcast with some friends, a baseball card podcast, Spitballing Cards.
Okay.
So everybody go check that out. A bunch of really smart baseball card guys, all smarter than me, in my opinion, about baseball cards. That's kind of something I've gotten into in the last few years. Really, really big time. I love it. But Otani, I said in the video, I would love for Otani if I could pick, and I'm not a fan of this team, but I think it would be really cool for him to go to the Mariners. Pacific Northwest, a lot of Japanese people up in that part of the country and into Canada. And obviously the succession from Ichiro, they've got J-Rod. It would just be a really cool fit for him. And they were all chanting for him at the All-Star game there this year in Seattle. That's not going to happen. I mean, I would be shocked if that happened. They just can't make him the kind of offer that some of the other teams can. So I think the three teams, and we all kind of agreed on this, Dodgers, Giants, Mets. I'm really hoping not the Mets. Since I moved to Atlanta a few years ago, I've kind of adopted them as my NL team, which has been pretty easy since they've been really good. But I do like the Braves, and I don't want to have Otani in the same division. We already have to deal with Bryce Harper. And I'm not a big Giants guy. So of those three teams, I would say the Dodgers. Also not a Dodgers fan, but it just sort of makes sense. Like stay in greater LA, you know, just switch leagues. He'd look really good in the blue and white. I think it would be a really good fit with the Dodgers. So that's kind of my pick. I really hope he doesn't stay with the Angels. That would be a disaster. I want him and Trout both out of there.
A Hero 3 comes in, swoops in with going to the Oakland A's.
Oh boy. To the Las Vegas Athletics.
Swooping in, yeah. As they move
to the Tampa Bay Rays.
It'd be interesting to see where Otani goes.
Yeah.
Well, you know, with Mike Trout never going really into the playoffs for one time and never being in the World Series, me personally, I hope that Otani goes somewhere where I just want to see him in the postseason.
Yeah.
See what he's doing. What team is he with? How is he influencing that team? We just saw Corey Seager become a legend.
Yeah.
Before our eyes and what he just pulled off. So, and this is a guy that really doesn't get talked about a lot. And since he left the Dodgers, you know, it's like I know Dodger fans that won't even bring his name up, but the guy's a legend now.
Mr. October the 2nd.
Yes, he's MVP in 2 different leagues. People,
yeah.
2 individuals, him and Reggie Jackson.
Yeah.
So it's a game changer. It's something totally different. When we talk about sports cards, there are two questions I have for you. In football, what's really going on since Brady retired? What QBs or players are people looking for? And just overall, what is vintage doing?
Sure. Yeah, those are good questions. So football, one of the things that really surprised me and still boggles my mind, like I understand Brady's pretty much the uncontested GOAT at this point. He just, in terms of career accolades and stats and all the things, makes sense. But for years, all the way up until when Peyton retired, there was very much an active debate. And anecdotally, I would say 60% of people I would have talked to up until that point would have said they thought Peyton Manning was the better quarterback.
I was one of them.
I was too. And I know Brady had the championships, but the early ones in his career, not to take anything away, were very much the defense. They had a top tier defense. The Patriots, in probably at least half of Brady's seasons, had a top 5 NFL defense. He never quite had the weapons that Manning did in many ways early in his career. Then he got Gronk. He had Randy Moss for that little period, and we saw what he could do when he had those types of weapons. But his cards have cooled off. Brady's cards have cooled off significantly. And I thought that Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, some of these other guys, I thought their cards would actually kind of get some attention. Like people would go, this price gap is ludicrous. It's really ludicrous and it should be closed. And that just has not happened, which is probably the biggest surprise to me. And Peyton and Eli are doing their little,
still relevant.
Yeah. It's like they're hilarious. I think they've got a lot of potential to do more comedy and more things long term, maybe acting, who knows. So that's been entertaining. So it's almost like, there's just this aura around Brady and his cards, and he's kind of the MJ of football now at this point. And so he's got all the price appreciation. So other than that, it's been all about ultra modern, like ultra modern. Yes, there was some buzz for sure into vintage football. In fact, 80s vintage football, 80s junk wax stuff is up about 6% over the last year, which is saying something considering like everything's down 25-30% from this time last year. And this is a notoriously slow period, but we're down significantly from this time last year. Most of the other vintage indexes and market movers are down to one extent or another. Baseball's down, vintage basketball's down the most, like 7 to 15% from last year, which again, when you're looking vintage versus ultra modern, you don't expect big swings in vintage compared to that newer stuff. But then when you look at football like today, I have done not a few videos just sort of cautioning people about this ultra modern football scene, because every sport, and for that matter, non-sports, Pokemon, Magic, other things, they all have their own nuances. And you have to understand what that collector base is like, what that league is like, how the superstars are promoted, all the hype cycles, everything, how often key players get injured. And I look at football and I'm like, it's all quarterbacks, right? It's all quarterbacks all the time when it comes to football. And it's such a lopsided thing. So we go back 2017. I'm just going to go through all the busts, right? 2017, Mitch Trubisky, Deshaun Watson. 2018, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Josh Rosen. 2019, Kyler, who's coming back to play now, but just hasn't looked like himself over the last year. Mm-hmm. Daniel Jones just got hurt and wasn't looking good at all after he got that big contract. Drew Lock had all this hype around him when he went like 5-0 to finish the Broncos season a few years ago. Haskins, may rest in peace. Minshew, Stidham, Jordan Love, not looking good at all. That 2020 class is a complete anomaly, with those other quarterbacks. But Jordan Love not looking good. And then pretty much I would argue the entire 2021 class looks like a bust right now, including Trevor Lawrence, who I was really high on going into this season. He played solid last year. Like I think he was MVP 7 last year. He was solid. And he really hasn't been flashy at all. He's been kind of pedestrian. The Jags look decent. And then 2022 was just like people trying to force a square peg into a round hole, like saying that Kenny Pickett was going to be amazing. Desmond Ridder, sorry, Jeff. Sorry. Sam Howell, he's looked solid, but not amazing. Malik Willis looks like he's never even played football before. And then you have Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy, who the funny story about him is I was criticizing people going all in on Purdy all last season and all the way through the first part of this season. And then literally the week that On Cards on the Table, I was like, I am converted. I am a Brock Purdy believer. He's efficient. He doesn't throw interceptions. He's got the best passer rating in the NFL over the last 10 games, going back to last year. I was like, he's playing fantastic. And San Francisco looked amazing. And then all of a sudden the wheels fell off. Their defense suddenly stinks. Purdy's throwing picks. It's like, oh, maybe I was wrong about that. So it's all ultra modern all the time. I think people need to be really careful. The one caveat I've seen that's a little different than that is I feel like I've seen a lot of buzz on Instagram and on some YouTube channels and things of people getting their hands on and showing off high-end positional player cards from like the 2000s and forward. And I'm talking, running backs, LaDainian Tomlinson, some Jamal Charles, some stuff like that, receivers, and then even defensive players like Ray Lewis, Charles Woodson, other guys like that, like showing off their Prism golds, their select golds, other,
I've seen that.
rare X fractors and things. And that's one thing that I really love because football is a team sport and the quarterback is absolutely the most important position. But I mean, when you look at a guy like Ray Lewis, when you look at a guy like Warren Sapp, they didn't have quarterbacks when they won their championships. It was those guys. Like it was their team. It was these defenses. It was these impact players that led their teams that were captains. And so I like to think that hopefully over time, the football card market can mature to some extent, kind of like basketball, just they don't love the big man. Maybe in football, people can shift and just be like, yeah, we love these guys in fantasy. Why don't we also appreciate their cards in their cards and show that in the prices?
Very true. The names that you just named, a lot of those guys had promise, and then I can even go back to people like Akili Smith, and even back in the day, that's like, ooh,
yeah,
a lot of people have come and gone.
Yep, absolutely.
And then I think people fail to realize that in football, there's always two things working against you when you play. There is film study. So somebody's recording you. You talk about Brock Purdy or even Pickett, and then they're finding a way. They're picking out your weakness.
Yeah.
They're going to set up a defense to fit your weakness. Now, only the elite of the elite, the GOATs, will adjust to whatever you throw in front of them.
Yeah.
And that's when you know the name Tom Brady. That's when you know Peyton Manning. That's when you know Joe Montana. That's when you know Steve Young. These guys are different. But the average quarterback, at best, can only play a certain way. And then when you take that away, then they don't know what to do. Then they start throwing interceptions and turning the ball over because they're sitting in the pocket too long because they're confused about what they saw. You line up in a certain defense and then you morph into something else that I don't know what to do with that. And that's what happens to these young quarterbacks. That's what's happening to Love right now. There's so much film on these guys that you become a victim. And then another thing is just the amount of hits and does injury creep in? Does something find you? We've seen two quarterbacks. When's the last time we saw two quarterbacks tearing their Achilles in the same season?
Yeah.
Basically dropping back and moving, tearing Achilles. So
yeah, it's not good.
That's just football 101 right there.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on 2024 in sports cars in general? Like people ask the question. I'm not going to ask you this, but some people say, well, are we at the bottom of the drop of cars?
Yeah.
Just overall, what do you see going on later?
I think there's two ways of looking at that question. One is just the overall world. What's going on in the world? Exactly. What's going on in the economy? And in that regard, your guess is as good as mine as anybody's. It doesn't look good. I mean, we're talking like wars and rumors of wars, right? Like it's not the geopolitical scene is not good at all right now, and we know that. And I just I for one, not to make that overly political, I just hate all the forced dichotomies and just like you have to pick a side and all this stuff. It's like war sucks, man, and that changes the economy and that changes people's outlook and puts fear into people. Right? We're already experiencing insane inflation, which is hurting a lot of people, hurting the working class big time. And there's continuous talk and maybe fear mongering, maybe it's reality about extreme, economic collapse and financial systems changing and all of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, I stay as plugged into that stuff as I can with balance because it's important and I need to be a good steward of what I'm doing for my family. As far as the hobby goes, kind of set that to the side and just look at the hobby. Like I'm very bullish on the sports card trading card hobby overall long term. I think it has experienced a real renaissance. I think people are very into sports. It's a huge part of the culture in the US and other things like Pokemon and stuff like that. And it's an outlet and it's a hobby. And I think more and more people will join. And we're probably going to still see a lot of those people go through the same, I call it like the collector maturity cycle that everybody kind of has to go through of, different styles of buying and selling and collecting and making mistakes and all of those things. And what's really important to me in that vein is just education. There is so much to take in. I mentioned the nuance between all the sports and things, and people come to me, they're like, I'm new, what should I know? And all this, I love having those interactions at card shows.
Mm-hmm.
I'm always like, don't, try not to go too fast, take it slowly, don't get FOMO, and trying to, put out good educational content, at least part of the time on Market Movers channel and in other things that we do at SCI. One of the things I'm really excited about, it's a huge honor. In fact, is that our team is getting to write this, sports card collecting and investing for dummies book, like the Wiley Dummies series. It's already on pre-order. It's going to be in, Barnes and Noble, all the places they sell these dummies books all over the US, all over the world, I guess. And that's a huge responsibility. And it's one that myself and those of us internally at SCI who are writing this book are taking seriously because, how do you cram everything that exists in the sports card hobby into 330 pages in a small book too? It's not a big book, right? So there's a lot for us to cover in there. We hope it's going to be a really practical, pragmatic, and realistic representation of the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's something that I think is hopefully going to serve as a really valuable resource to help educate people and make sure that they don't, bite off more than they can chew or get burned or something.
And I think that's on many levels. I appreciate the work that you all are doing because I talk to people all the time. You can, and I don't want people out there to think that, I just started collecting sports cards. This is for me. There are decisions you have to make along the way, no matter how long you've been collecting sports cards or watching sports. Sometimes I watch so much, I have to step back and ask myself, am I biasing myself on a particular decision that I am thinking about making? Let me call a few people and see what they think, or let me consult this book to find out what are some other thoughts on this subject. There are sometimes you can just look at some stuff so long. I've been wrong on. I thought Peyton Manning wasn't the best quarterback in his draft. Right? I didn't see Brady doing what he's doing. I had a friend tell me that I just talked to today. Early Steph Curry's rookie year, it told me exactly who he is, and I was like, "Nah, I can't see that." I've had the same friend tell me about SGA his rookie year, and I was like, I can't see that," because I was biased with Steph about what I've seen a point guard do.
Yeah.
But the game has evolved. I wasn't looking for the game to evolve. So there are so many different levels and nuances to understanding. So always having somewhere to gut check yourself or check in or re-educate yourself or retrain yourself on what you're actually seeing is needed at all times.
Yeah.
Everyone should know that.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep you too late because I'm going to respect your time zone. But one question that I have to ask that I also asked Jeff before he left is, Who's the greatest point guard of all time? Is it Magic Johnson or is it Steph Curry? What are your thoughts, T-Pott?
Well, as much as I would like to throw a curveball into that question and argue that it's John Stockton,
John Stockton is a wonderful point guard to bring up.
John Stockton to me is like
Yes.
what every point guard should be. Even in today's game, it's just so rare. It's so rare to see somebody, with that scoring efficiency and just passing and all those things. And Trey, man, if you're listening, just focus on trying to be John Stockton, not Steph Curry. But I never really got a chance just to see Magic actually play in that, when they kind of, he and Larry kind of saved basketball in the 80s before MJ came on. And I didn't get to see him play a lot, which is a bummer. But obviously I've seen plenty of highlights. I know the type of player he was. His resume speaks for itself. But recently, like pretty recently, I kind of started mulling this over again. And I was like, I think I've got to put Steph at number one. He has completely, and you said it, he's completely revolutionized the game.
Oh, yeah.
He's one of the most entertaining players I've ever seen play. Like just circus shots, but in a real game. And you're just like, how does this guy do this? And in an era when I personally do not like this 3-point iso ball, jack up, pull up shots from half court from the logo, that type of thing. Like, man, do I miss the 90s. I grew up with it. Maybe that's why, but I miss that style of basketball from back then. And yet I love watching Steph because he's Steph. He can do what other people can't do. And so I think if you look at his scoring prowess, his ability to, and you can't mention him without mentioning Clay, but their ability to erase 10-point deficits in no time. 20-point deficits in no time. Like just when they were really in the height of their dynasty, no lead was safe. Literally no lead. It was like they're up 18 with 5 minutes left and everybody's going, nobody's leaving the stadium. Nobody's leaving. The fans are like, they could still win this game, and sometimes they did. So I think that's kind of a next level of performance, but it's really hard if you stack those three guys up, let's say Stockton and Magic Johnson, first of all, like it's like,
any one of those three, you're winning.
You're totally opposite, like, just different sizes, different athletic ability, different like strengths in their game, all these things. But then you throw Steph into it, who's just, his play style is totally different. Even though he is a solid passer, but his just ability to score from anywhere on the court literally is unmatched in NBA history, frankly.
The thing that always surprises me too, the more film I watch on Magic, LeBron plays a lot like Magic.
He does.
Plays a lot like him, posting up,
falling
for the ball, how he attempts to distribute the ball. You see LBJ try to do more no-look passes and different things right now. His style of play is more suited towards a Magic Johnson type because Magic posted up a lot and called for the ball in the post, especially when Kareem was on the court.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, I agree.
To me, it's no disrespect to Magic. I watched a lot of the tail end of Magic Johnson's career before he retired and before the 92 All-Star game where he just went off. The 91 Finals versus Jordan when Jordan got his first ring with Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant, John Paxson on that team. I just think Steph is just on a whole nother level as far as entertainment, athleticism at that position. And I just marvel what he's doing at 6'2". We're not talking about a 6'7", 6'8", 6'9" point guard. We're talking about a 6'2" guy who barely is 6'2", probably really more like 6'1". And I notice now I watch games, he uses his body a lot to shield you from – he's perfected. I'm a small guy. You're not going to block my shot.
Yeah.
So he does a lot of things to make sure that you have to work to try to get to his ball, and he could even challenge a 7-footer in that regard. So I like to try to embrace what I'm seeing and not look for something else.
Yeah.
I like to try to embrace a guy like Steph Curry, a guy like Klay Thompson, because we'll probably never see a backcourt like that again. Joe Dumars and Isaiah Thomas was the epitome of a backcourt before these guys came along, and Mark Jackson told us all who they were going to be. And even myself, I didn't believe that. I'd never seen that. So
yeah, it's just the consistency with
Yeah.
Steph that's unbelievable. Like the consistency. Like if you look at, I'm looking at his 3-point percentage numbers year over year, right?
Mhm.
Career 42.8% 3-point shooter, which is with his
Right.
volume is unreal. And it's the way he takes the shots too. It's not just like he's spotting up like Kyle Korver and sniping, which is impressive in its own right. But that's the big difference between Steph and Clay, for example, right? It's like a lot of catch and shoot, but just year over year, it's like the standard deviation is next to none. He's right between 42 and 45% year over year over year over year. And, he had 38% 2 years ago in 2021-22. This season, he's off to, 47.5%. I'm sure that'll temper off and come down a little bit, but he's not showing any signs of slowing down. He's 35 years old. And we always hear about how LeBron takes care of his body. Well, so does Steph. And Steph's got better endurance than probably anybody in the NBA, even at 35.
That's right.
And so, how much longer can he keep doing this? And what other records can he break? One thing that I guess just for me will be really interesting long-term is, will Steph retire with the Golden State Warriors? Or will there be a scenario at the end of his career where he could go win a championship somewhere else, and he does, maybe with Giannis, maybe with somebody else, who knows?
Well, you got to think he could be a sharpshooter for a long time.
He could. He really could. Like, I mean, I don't know. He's taking care of him. He could play into his 40s. Who knows? So it'll be really interesting to see what happens with Steph over the next, let's say 5-8 years, something like that.
I actually want to see, kind of bias and probably, I want to see, can he get to 30,000 points? Because he's at 22,000 right now. That's a lot of basketball. That 8,000 points is a lot of basketball.
It is.
But can Steph Curry get there? I actually think also he's heard the chatter about who he is and who he isn't, and who's the better point guard. And that person's name is Magic Johnson or John Stockton. And I think he's come out early this year trying to let people know I'm rolling for MVP season, because that's how he's playing.
Yeah,
I know he missed that year because he broke his wrist. So Steph is trying to go for something right now. We'll see if he can get there. And if he can get a finals MVP, another one, and if he can get a in-season MVP, and he can get his 5th ring, one for the thumb, a lot of conversations start shifting, because then he has as many as Kobe, Tim Duncan, and one behind Mike Jordan, and one more than Shaq. So a lot of stuff starts changing. At 6'2". T-Pott, I really want to thank you for being here.
Thank you, sir.
You're a person that I get on here and I could talk to for hours about.
We could keep going and going.
Yeah, many different topics. But what I'm going to do is try to bring you back in 2024.
That sounds great.
And talk to you about more. I really appreciate your time. But before you get out of here now, you saw the intro. We're not going to let you slip out of here without this. So I got to ask you, Ty, who you rolling with?
Rolling with FD.
Oh, man. I really appreciate you, sir. I appreciate the work you do. The first time I met you, I don't know if you remember, was at 2 years ago at the Chicago National, and we had a chance to talk for a little bit. You have a great personality. You break down data well. I always appreciate people that can do both. I love the work that you do with SCI and what y'all do as a team in general. And I appreciate you taking the time to come on. What's the play?
It's been great. I'm looking forward to next year. We'll see how it plays out. And thanks to everybody who stuck around and listened. That was fun.
All right, brother. Thank you very much. Tell your wife and your family to say hello, and everybody on the SCI team. Appreciate you, man.
Will do. All righty.
Bye-bye.